All right, welcome back. Over the past couple days, filming these practice takes for week 8, it offers me a point of reflection and time to sort of and I think in the back of my mind, what would I like to talk about in this sort of introspection, and how have I been mentally, and to reflect upon the week. What areas can I improve? What we can look at doing, and stuff of that nature. Uh, First and foremost, as this is introspection, mentally, I've been a lot better. I think last week was really bad. There's some personal stuff and some external stuff as well that really started taking a toll on me. But this week, I'm starting to find that things around me are starting to calm down a little bit. And I think also a big part of that has been meditation and just really being diligent on doing that, in the mornings and the evenings, just carving out time to recenter and refocus. It's not the easiest practice. Uh, just lying down or sitting down or whatever, and just doing nothing. Particularly if you're trying to record something, you just want to get it done. I'm a bit like that. I'm just like, man, I just want to get it over and done with. But yeah, you just need to sort of just when we'll get it done. Just sit down for a second and just refocus, and you'll be better off. Like you'll be able to do it for longer and be able to record longer, be less tired. There's so many benefits for it. But it's just again this aspect of switching over your mind a little bit, and just being a little more sort of diligent with yourself and strict on yourself in terms of your health and your well-being. And the other day, I was working up till about 1. I'm sorry, and I was just like, no, that's it. Like I can't keep going until 2, 3 today. Like that's it. Like whatever you've uploaded, if it's 4, if it's 3, if it's whatever, that's it. Like that's it, done. Like and we'll do the rest tomorrow. You just have to at the point of just start in some ways just respecting yourself a little bit. Oh, just apologies. I forgot to just plug in the cable just to keep the battery. The battery is good. It's at 50 something. I think it's gonna be all good, but just in case, I don't want to have any issues with it. It can be a bit temperamental when. Oh. Oopsies. When I am recording, depending on Anyway, yeah, and I think that's just been something I've just have to start. Just doing more and being okay. Look, you've done what you've done, and today, and that's it. Like enough, and the whole world isn't going to crumble if you don't get your X amount of what you want to get done that day. And yes, it's a definitely an aspect of discipline and stuff like that. Okay, you need work and I get that, but at the same time, I feel like that's almost like a sort of beginner's mentality of like run to your head like a headless chicken through the fire and flames, and bang your head against the wall until you get through. And sure, these ideas and concepts are great in the beginning. Like, don't give up, and you gotta work hard, and hard work, and discipline, and you never give up, and all that. And those are great, and they really help. They really work. But after years and years and years, you sort of develop, I guess, a level of discipline, understanding in yourself, and a love for what you do. And what keeps you going, at least from my perspective, has been the love of it. And we touched on this a little bit last week. That uh, you know a lot of it is just anger and hatred and all this other stuff. But I think that having relaxed, calm down a little bit, and giving myself a bit time to sort of uh, stabilize in some ways. Uh, it really comes down to love, a love for it. Just like anything, like if you love something, you'll do whatever you can and need to do. And that's really, I guess, when you're wanting to get to a point of mastery in something, and you want to get to a point of where very few people get to. It really comes down to a point of love for something. It's not that necessarily, not at all, that they're better than you, or that I'm somehow better than you. It's nothing to do with that. It's just I have a love for this, and I wish to see it through and deliver the best possible outcome and version of myself for the project. And that's just the type of person I am. And again, it just comes back to love for it. And you notice too, the vocal takes and stuff. I really have a great passion and love for it. It's not just whatever, and you know it's a great passion of mine. uh, and you know uh, but at the same time, you need to also in some ways respect yourself and be like, okay, look, it's clear that you're disciplined and you're gonna do this, right? But it's like, okay, look, you need to really take care of yourself. Okay, if it's just, if you're not feeling well, just okay, just stop for a second. It's not gonna go anywhere. You'll finish the rest tomorrow. And look, in society we look at it as, oh, you look for yourself, that's really great, and sure, there are definitely a lot of positives in it. But at the same time, if you're a person who's highly motivated and doesn't need someone to sort of um, motivate them, it can also be in the danger of, or you push yourself too much, and you need to in some ways have a bit of of wait a second, I need to respect myself, and if you know I just need to take some time. And I think it was Wednesday. It was a really beautiful day, and I had my coffee. I went outside to move the car, just because I had some stuff to do around outside out front and in the garage. And so I moved the car out, and it was just such a beautiful day. I was like, oh my god, like, am I really gonna spend another whole day, in that house just working? And I just packed up my stuff and I was like, okay, cool. Like, let's go. Like, let's get some air and just like, I need to take the morning off and just have some time for myself, go for a walk, just go grab a coffee and just enjoy the sun. And it was fantastic. It was just really good just to get out and just, okay, like, just take the morning and just, and when I came back, I felt a lot more energized. Okay, let's do this. Rather than that sort of mentality of, oh, you deserve this, or you gotta get this done, you got this done, you'll have time, you'll have rest when you sleep. And all this other stuff. And look, some concept of those are great. But I remember my mentor when a few years ago said this, and it was that, yes, we were pushing ourselves, physically and in training and everything. Awesome. But you need to take care of yourself. And if you're not well, or you're not feeling well, or your back hurts, or your arm hurts, or you're in pain, these things you need to address, right? And yes, it's like, oh, don't be a baby and then just push yourself through, right? And sure, if it's just a little sort of like, you just, it's different between making excuses and actually having physical like pain. And that's really important. And if you're not feeling well, forcing yourself to do something in most cases isn't going to help, right? And then it's like, oh, it's just this aspect of, you're making excuses. What? It's no. You're actually having a much more mature perspective, and that's when you sort of reach a level of maturity in yourself, and you say, okay, wait a second, I'm really not feeling well, and I am disciplined, and I'm not making excuses. Just I'm not feeling well, and I need to just take a second. And I think that's really important. I mean, we have to realize that we are, fully grown adults, and then one has, and it's not just making excuses. A lot of a good percentage of just actually are disciplined and work very hard. But we think that we aren't, because in some ways we've sort of been programmed into thinking that we're not. And then we have to sort of have this mentality of like no excuses and all this other stuff. And from my perspective, what I found is that when you enjoy something, when you really have passion for something, no one has to force you to do it. If you really enjoy something, no one has to, yeah, you just naturally do it. It comes from a point of again this, of love for it. So that's just something I've been sort of, just sort of dealing with this week. Overall, it's been a pretty good week, and nothing like nothing crazy. And like the past few weeks, the past actually I would say, past 2 months have been quite rough. Particularly the last sort of few weeks have been some of the toughest weeks. And a lot of that's been just mental stuff and some external stuff as well. But I'm finding that we're sort of over that, and we're sort of getting to a point now where it's calming down. Things around me are starting to calm down, and we're really able to dedicate all our focus onto this, which is really good. But yeah, one of the things that surprised me is how much I was able to sort of withstand, and how much I'm able, sort of my pain threshold, if you will. I was very surprised how high my pain threshold is, and how much I'm able to sort of sustain for a long period of time. I was quite surprised that I was able to sort of find that sort of next gear, and just push through. And I mean, and the results, speak for themselves. It's not a pretty process, as you've probably seen, but and I mentioned this when I was doing the so I have some constant issues. I've had them for years. I'm not snorting cocaine or anything like that. It's just a bit of a chronic sort of issue I have with my sinuses. This idea, was when I'm doing the drums, the growth isn't pretty, right? It's not a pretty thing. And it reminds you of Muhammad Ali, when he was like, when they asked him, how many push-ups do you do? And it's like, I only start counting when it starts hurting. Because that's when it counts. There's no point, I do 100 push-ups, right? Okay, cool. But I mean, if you regularly do 100 push-ups, it's not really pushing yourself. And if you do 50, and every day you do 50, you sort of get used to it. And so you're not growing, you're just maintaining. Uh, and and I've thought about that. The one of the aspects that have been really difficult the past few weeks has been that the growth in the piano and the vocals and doing this and doing that. And I was just banging my head like, just why is it just so difficult? And what I realized is that because you're wanting to grow, you're growing, and that's why it's difficult. The first time, the first take you do, it's easy, but then when you do the second time, the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, it gets more difficult because you're growing, and it's hurting because you're growing, and that process is not pretty. It's painful. It's murky. It's muddy. It's not pretty. Uh, but it's necessary if you want to if you want to progress. Uh, yeah, yeah, and I mentioned that in the drums. When we're doing it, when you check out, hopefully you'll have the time to check out week 8 for the drum practice for Nightmare. That it's really, again, do it again, do it again. You're not happy with that take, do it again, do it again, do it again, and it hurts. Like physically and mentally, it hurts. You're doing it 3, 4, 5 times, etc. But I guess what I found is that a psychological way to sort of cope with it is that, okay, the reason it's hurting so much is because you're growing. It's a sign of growth. That pressure, that anxiety, and then that fear and everything that sort of explodes and is heightened in those moments is because you're growing, and it's not an easy process. And it's that sort of idea has really motivated me, and I've realized, oh, okay, so like it's not, I guess, just it's not something that I'm doing wrong. It's actually I'm doing it right. It's just the process. And just have that switch has really helped this week. Uh, and now when I get to that point when I'm doing particularly the last two, the last two takes, the last take, I'm like, okay, look, this is the most important one, right? This was just the other whatever amount were just the warm-ups. This is the one that counts, right? And that gives you that extra, push and motivation or desire to get that one done for that day. Yeah, I think that's really been really powerful this week. Overall, I've been pretty stable. The meditating has helped mentally to just be a little more stable. Uh, but I have just been a bit exhausted. This past week, it's been a bit of a has been quite a bit of a crawl and a push, particularly yesterday and today. It's been very much a crawling through the dirt sort of vibe. I was feeling okay. I slept well, but then they just sort of hit me, and it's just been a bit of a battle the past 2 days, just sort of to get this done. And when I was filming the bother acoustic today, I was just like, man, just no vocal practice, nothing. Let's just get it done. I want to get over and done with. Like, it is what it is. Let's move in. Let's move in to the next week. Just like, let's finish it off. Yeah. But I managed to carve out some time to be with some friends on the Friday night. I went and watched a comedy show, so that was quite good. Have some plans next weekend as well. So it's just about finding some moments to, it's not as I guess fun as it used to be, because you have like you got to go home and don't forget about the uploads, or don't forget about this. So it's difficult sometimes to switch off, but it is just what it is. There's many positives, and there's obviously many negatives. Like in anything, um, this idea that we have in a modern society, and this what I've noticed is these sort of trends of we pick one side and that's the right side, and then if you don't pick that side, it's like you're somehow evil. Is not correct. I mean, any everything has a positive and a negative. Everything, and sure, the positives might outweigh the negatives, but no matter what it is, no matter how much we idolize something, or we find an ideological viewpoint on something, or we try to sort of rationalize something, there's always going to be a negative connotation to that rationalization. Uh, and yeah, no matter if you work from home, for example, you work from the office, or other aspects, there's always going to be a positive and negative. It's not to say that working from the office is somehow more beneficial. It's not. It's just there's certain benefits and there's certain negatives. When you work from home, there are different positives and different negatives. It's the same with working for yourself. There's certain positives and there's certain negatives, and you just sort of have to understand that and find a way to sort of work around them. So yeah, that's sort of the wrap up. Of how I guess this week's been. I haven't been like I wouldn't say any sort of outliers or extreme outliers. It's been a relatively stable week. I wouldn't say it's been the most productive. Productive. It hasn't been the most productive week, but we've made headways, and we've just progressed forward. And the time I had to practice, we practiced. Like for example, we only did one rehearsal for the Search for Unnatu-RUL Happiness. Only managed to record one, so I wasn't too happy about that. I am slipping a bit with the dance guitar solos and stuff like that. I'm just finding it difficult to find time. More and more priority is taking the stimulus solo. We're also working on a new solo as well. I'm going to be sharing within the coming weeks, and that's just taking priority. The stimulus solo is obviously starting to take more priority. Wanting to practice that takes time. Even though I've played guitar for uh, 20 plus years, it's still it takes time to practice, particularly when you're pushing yourself, when challenging yourself to do something new. When you're moving into an area you're not sure about, uncomfortable in. Uh, but just in general, when you're pushing yourself to develop a faster speed on something, to develop a better transition on something, it doesn't matter if you've been practicing for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. It takes time, no matter what you're doing, to get it to a point where you can perform it. And with now Search for Natural Happiness really taking over, I'm finding less and less time to sort of do those little bits and pieces that I do. But I really enjoy them. They offer me a relief. I don't put any sort of restrictions on myself when I do them, and you gotta do this, you gotta do that. I just have fun with them and practice them, and just allow myself to be free with them, and whatever comes out comes out. Uh, and I think that's really good. Just gives me a bit of a switch. If I find that if I start also seriously focusing on them, and it's gonna be like I think that it's just too much. And I think when I do them, I just have fun with them, and pick some nice songs that I really enjoy, and just close my eyes and just have a bit of fun, and different ideas switch off a little bit, helps me switch off a little bit, and just enjoy the space. uh, But that's alright, I'm not saying I'm not doing them. I'm still doing them, but just not at the sort of frequency that I have been doing them. Uh, yeah, so I think that's sort of yeah. So it's been a relatively positive week in terms of those things, and man, this is really sad. I don't know why it's so. I'm not sure why it's been like. Usually it's not that bad. Uh, so I think those have been some sort of things I've just sort of thinking about throughout the week and just sort of reflecting on how the week's been. Overall, it's been a good week, and it, we've progressed well, particularly on the piano. It's really nice to see some great growth on the piano, and this idea that we talked about last week of me really just being more comfortable with myself and understanding that I am good enough, and I'm sharing with you my perspective on things and the way I like to do things. Uh, Not, comparing myself to anyone else and like, oh, they're doing it like this, why can't I do it like that? I'm doing it the way I know how to do and the way I can do it. I sing the way I sing. I play the guitar like the way I like to play the guitar. And I share the ideas and artistic ideas the way I think they look good, and uh, and that's what works for me, and and that's sort of you know it's something I wanted to touch on briefly in this introspection, and uh, is this just I want to be kind about this. I don't want to be like I don't want to sound too harsh or anything like that. I just think that there needs to be a little more respect to the particularly DJing and then our form of DJing and mixing. There needs to be a high level of understanding and respect for it. Uh, you know, you know, um, dear friends of mine, out of love, said, "Oh, it's great to finally, see you sort of, launch, and because we're doing this project now, and then we're doing this next one. And it's been many years in the making to really put it together and stuff like that. It's great to, see it come to fruition." And I have friends and people like, "Oh, I'm gonna learn how to DJ and all this sort of stuff. Can you teach me how to DJ and stuff like that?" And it's fine. Like, cool, no worries. Like, yeah, I can see, like, why it's fun for you, and then you can do this, and then you play a bunch of music, and it sounds cool, and you can maybe get some friends together, and if you do, um, if you do bit better, and you have a nice sort of taste in the music, and you can play maybe this genre, or you can play this, or you can book this, and you can play this sort of style and stuff like that. And that's fine, but I think when you look at yeah, uh, it's not like, oh, can you teach me how to be a lawyer? Can teach me how to be a dentist? Can teach me how to be a doctor? Teach me how to be engineer? And it's like, well, sure. I mean, I can teach you, but I mean, it's going to take years and years of education and experience and practice to become an engineer. It's not just like, here you go, and the next day you're an engineer. But I think, I touched on this in an art of mixing because the learning curve for DJing, for example, isn't very high. Okay, and even Avicii mentioned this, DJing is easy. The hard part is the sort of, the art of DJing, right? And in some ways, he's right, you know. Uh, in some ways, as much as I love, Avicii and stuff like that, I wouldn't necessarily call, what he did as sort of. DJing per se. Or yes, technically it's DJing, it's not mixing, right? More an artist performing his music, right? And uh, that's fine, right? We've talked about this aspect of the person who's created the music. He should be able to play it any way they like, right? But again, it comes back to this sort of developing respect for the art. Now that we're sort of past that sort of boom of electronic music and stuff like that, we need to develop a higher understanding and respect in general for, particularly for the EDM music, and then the way that it's played and stuff like that. And it can't just be one song to the next, right? And in the past, that worked, right? Uh, but these days, it's just I don't think we can sort of just hide behind that anymore. Like just like anything, when you move on, like that was 10 years ago, right? And that's just how it was back then, right? But now that we're sort of moving into technology is getting better and stuff like that. The bar needs to also then be increased, and the standard needs to be increased. You can't just sort of do 6 months or a year and then there you go, right? And but that's what we get, right? And I guess that bothers me in a lot of ways, because not enough respect is being given to that. It's not just DJing, it's understanding how to do that, and working on the mixing and stuff like that. Particularly if you're wanting to be an artist, you really need to understand why do you want to be one? What is it that you're trying to say? What's your perspective on things? If you want to become a mixer, right? Okay, are you just anyone can pick a bunch of songs and DJ, right? So what exactly are you contributing to that scene and form? Um, yeah, and I know it's a murky area, and I don't want it to seem like, oh, nothing like that. I guess it's something just rubs me off the wrong way, and it's like, well, it takes time to learn how to, I guess, quote unquote DJ, and then to mix and understand what works well. But it's one thing to perform in one genre for an hour or so, right? But it's a completely different ballgame when you're mixing in different styles and different tempos and genres of music, and you're moving from 130 to 140 to 145 to 150 to 120 to 125 to 115, and you're increasing, decreasing, cutting this out, using the chorus of this one, using the verse of this one, using a cappella of this one. You got 3 tracks, 2 channels, 4 channels. It's a completely different ballgame, and that takes time to understand. Just like it takes 10, 15 years for a doctor to become a specialist in their field. It's not like 6-month doctor, here you go, all right, now you can have patients and people can pay you for your advice. And it boggles my mind. Uh, yeah, and it's interesting how we don't have, accreditation or anything like that. It's just sort of the wild, wild west. When you're a doctor, when you're a lawyer, when you're a dentist, when you're an engineer, there's certain accreditations that you need to get, or you need to pass exams and stuff like that to say that, okay, you are a proficient lawyer. You are able to practice law. You are able to practice medicine at this level. You're able to do surgery at this level. Stuff of that nature, right? But in music, it's just sort of like, oh, okay, you know what? You did it for 6 months. I'm a musician. I'm a DJ. And I guess the murky area is because you can become quite successful at that and just play one song to the next, and you play one genre of music. And you might mix in this, mix in that, and okay, there you go. And people might like that music that you share, and that's fine. That's great. But there needs to be a distinction between that's a hobby and okay, like this is what it takes to be a professional at this. And I think A big reason behind that is because the bar is so low. I mean, if you look at professional tennis players, the reason that they're getting better and better and better, because these guys have set the bar so high. You know, if you want to beat these top guys, you know, you really need to work towards getting, you know, to that level. Uh, but yeah, I guess we just don't have that in music, right? It's very much about sex appeal. You know, and I see pop artists, you know, very much, you know, promotional of sex and the way they look and dress and stuff like that. Much more so than the music. It's more about the aesthetic and stuff like that. And definitely, I agree that the aesthetic and the sex and artistry and stuff like that apply to the music. You know, the way you look and stuff like that definitely has an aspect to the music. But again, we can't take away that the core aspect of what it is, and that is music. Uh, yeah, I feel that sort of with technology now, with especially with AI taking over and all this other stuff, our skill level is decreasing, and we're relying too heavily on those other stuff. But the skill of what made you a great artist, of what inspired us, you know, Michael Jackson, Prince, you know, Stevie Wonder, you know, uh, uh, there's so many. You know, you take the Beatles for example, take the Rolling Stones. Uh, you know, it took a tremendous amount of you know, maybe Beatles not the great example because I mean again you fall into this sort of trap of okay they're very talented and they're very young and became very successful, right? Uh, but at least you know they you know they had an authentic nature and they wrote you know their music. You know, these days you have you know someone who's talented, right, and they can sing, or you know they can you know, sing a note, and then a bunch of people create a bunch of music for them, and then obviously they're going to become you know very successful at a very young age, and we think that's normal, right? But that's just not normal, particularly at a very young age. Be that successful as an artist, it's a very rare thing. It's an outlier, particularly when you're not the one that's created the music and you're just seeing sort of the top line of the piece. And again, I guess that creates a bit of a sort of disparity in sort of the music sort of scene and world. Uh, yeah, yeah, it's just something I wanted to just touch base on and say that I guess that there needs to be just a higher level of standard. I feel and a little more respect for you know what it is that you know mixing is, and what DJing is, and what production and creation of music is. Um, yeah, I just you know, not everyone is meant to be a DJ or you know, like just like not everyone's meant to be a doctor or a lawyer or a basketball player or a soccer player at that level, right? There's only one, you know, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and you know, and Ronaldo and Messi and all that stuff. There's only two, I guess, you know, three or you know, there's only a handful of top, you know, and even at that top level, like there's only maybe one or two, right? And that I guess you know that's just where it should be because it's the people that want to get to there that is very small, and the higher the level you want to get to, the people that want to actually do that is even smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Uh, but again, there's a great respect for soccer. It's a great respect for basketball, right? And the standard is very high. It's not just you do basketball for a year and you're an NBA player, right? Uh, yeah, I just I just think that yeah, we need to be careful and we need to put some, you know, I guess rules or like you know some sort of you know um, you know, sustainable practice around it to, you know, what we regard as okay, a musician, you know, etc. It can't just be, you know, you can play one song and you're a musician. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I hope you can see, you know, through what I do, the amount of time, dedication, and practice it takes. It's not just, you know, 1 week and there you go. I mean, it's years and years. I mean, what I'm sharing you is just sort of, you know, what's taking me years. You know, some of these songs, like I think I mentioned in the Without Me, you know, the mix was printed, you know, last year, and I'm still sort of now sort of just working out, you know, the final little tweaks and stuff, and working the vocal. You can see how difficult that the vocal is for me. It's not just something I just, you know, brushed off the salt of my shoulders and okay, let's go. Uh, it takes time to develop vocally, to develop vocalization, particularly if you want to do it properly. You want to be able to sing and not just add a bunch of, you know, auto tune and stuff like that to it, because anyone can do that. I mean, anyone can just put a bunch of songs together, like I just mentioned, and there you go, right? It takes time to understand, you know, just like for example, the creation of music. It takes time, and I guess there's a greater respect for music production and creation because it's, you know, quote unquote more difficult. There's less people that do it, and that's how it should be, right? But just because something's easier doesn't mean like, oh, now it's like everyone's like, uh, yeah, I know. It's just, it's a confusing area. There's a lot of sort of, you know, contradictions in it. But it's just something I think about. Um, like, oh, geez, I wish that, you know, there's a little more, particularly like, you know, for painters and stuff like that, the art world and stuff like that. I feel like there's a great sort of history and renaissance and passion for it and understanding and culture and studies around it. But there isn't as much for music. It's a bit of a sort of shit show. And like you can study, you know, great Renaissance art and stuff like that, but you can't, you know, there's not much courses for studying, you know, the histories of music and stuff like that. I mean, there is a little bit, but it's not really as respected and presented in a way that's, you know, formalized education. Uh, you know, I mean, I could be wrong. Perhaps there are areas that are done around. It's one thing to, I guess, be sort of the conservatorium, as they say, and, you know, professional sort of cellist and classical music and violinists and stuff like that. That's different. What I'm talking about is more the modern, being a modern artist, and, you know, not just the classical aspects of music. Uh, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, touching on just the classical side of things, you know, the way that it's structured, and I think a lot of those aspects can be applied to the, you know, the modern side of music creation, stuff like that. You know, yeah, I'm not a fan of like, you know, exams and this and that. I don't think that's the way to go because there's just a lot of that's nonsense. But some aspects and principles can be applied into, you know, the sort of modern artistry and being regarded, you know, what does it take to be regarded as an artist, right? Uh, but I guess what comes down to, you know, I mentioned, and the reason I mentioned is because, you know, I'm working on just the you know, work of for just finalizing the art of mixing the final episode for season 2, and I touch on this understanding of wanting, you know, there needs to be a greater sort of want for understanding where the music comes from, right? Just like we have for a lot of, you know, things these days, we have a great understanding of where they come from, right? Where we want to understand where our food comes from, and, you know, the people behind this TV show, or the, you know, where this furniture came from, or, you know, where is this, you know, material being processed from? Is it organic? Is it sustainable and this other stuff? But then for music, we don't really have that same sort of want to understand, you know, okay, you know, who made this music? Why is there, you know, 40 people on this song? You know, why does there need to be 40 people? Uh, and then you look at aspects of awards and stuff like that. Okay, and it's like, okay, who's actually getting this award? If there's 40 people on this project, is that under the same label because they're an artist, and does that make them an artist if they have all these people? They have 7 people working on the song, and another 3 people working on the mix, and then this person does this person does that, and then it's like, okay, wait a second, like what exactly is you, the artist who just received one of the most prestigious awards, for example, what exactly do you do as a musician? So the musical aspects, okay, what exactly are you doing on that piece of music that warrant, if you look at the Oscars, right? Okay, it warrants you delivering an exceptional performance on the film, right? But in music, it's not really about that, is it? And then we sort of blanket say, oh, because it's such a high level that it's all very everyone's at the same level, right? It's all blanket, and it's all based around different factors, and a very easy way of saying like we are gonna do what we want to do, um, basically. And uh, yeah, I mean, there's certain key things you can look at to determine, okay, in terms of your music proficiency, not just um, murky shadows. Uh, yeah, but again, it is, I guess, is what it is. Uh, in some ways, no point fighting against it. It's just sort of you create your own sort of thing, I guess. Uh, but yeah, I just wanted to share just that with you. I guess over the years, it's just it takes time. It takes time to develop mastery. It takes time to develop proficiency in a certain area, and when your time comes, it comes, right? But you can't force it. And I understand that my sort of journey isn't for everyone, right? There's a lot of sacrifice involved, and for most people, this level of insanity and dedication just isn't going to work, right? And for most people, just they want an ordinary life, and they have it's more of a job for them, and that's fine. It's that this is not for you, and I'm not saying that as a DJ you shouldn't have a job as a DJ and waiting DJs and stuff like that. That's great, and right on, just keep at it. Uh, I'm just saying that you know it takes time to become a great wedding DJ. It takes time to become a great DJ in your profession and do it for 20, 30 years, right? Then you can regard yourself as a proficient DJ. It's not just you do it for 6 months and okay, there you go, right? Uh, it takes a very long time, and that's just the way it is. And there's no shortcuts for it. Uh, but again, we just need to raise the bar. And just because you might have a popular song doesn't give you just instant access to playing at massive fest or something like that. It takes time to build up to something like that. Now I know that makes no sense to a lot of people, and it's probably never gonna happen. Uh, but yeah, I just think about, for example, a person who I greatly admire, David Bowie, right? And the amount of shows and the amount of things he had to do to become the artist and person he became, right? It didn't just happen overnight. Yeah, I probably just confused the hell out of you. I just wanted to touch base. And it's just building up in me a little bit, and I just felt it was important uh, to to just touch on. Uh, um, yeah, maybe it's because I have a great passion and desire for this, and it's just I wish that more people took a little more time and and understood, okay, let's get better at this, right? Before we start, and understand it's gonna take time, and let's create something that's worth the space. With so much stuff out there, what exactly are you contributing? Is what you're contributing adding, to the plethora of that, or is it just whatever, right? I think I mentioned that in one of the breakdowns, the art of mixing. It's like, that's the perspective I think we need to start taking. It's like, with so much available out there, it's like, okay, if what I have right now, is it actually, worth me putting out, or do I need to start taking a little more time to, okay, it's gonna take a little more time, and then we can start putting it out, right? Okay, now this is a good point, right? And you can notice that with, you know, the ones I share with you, the practice takes and Project Viminacium, are the ones I feel, okay, this is a point where we can start sharing it, right? There's a lot of stuff as well I haven't started sharing yet because it's not there yet. And out of respect for you, it's like, okay, look, we just need to spend a little more time on this until, okay, we can start sharing it. Otherwise, it's just not valuable. Uh, yeah. Um, yeah. I don't know. Uh, I just know that I'm at a point now where I'm ready. I'm ready to launch and get it out and share with you what I have. But at the same time, I feel that it's because I've reached a level of proficiency that I am comfortable sharing it, and I am respectful of what I share to you. And I know that, okay, what I right now I'm comfortable sharing with you because I know it's at a level of proficiency that it shows a respect to you. And I know that, okay, when we start booking shows and getting people to put their hard-earned money into a show, I can comfortably put whatever price I want because I know that I have reached a level of proficiency that I will, out of 99.9999% give you a show that will give you will knock your socks off because I've worked my ass off to get to a point of proficiency that I know, okay, I'm going to give you everything I've got at the highest possible level. And I wish more people would think from that perspective, right? It's not just, you have someone else create the music for you, and then you just blurt a few words up and you sell your tickets. And then I guess look at, for example, Rolling Stones, right? They can sell tickets for whatever they want, right? But they can do that because they've reached a level certain level of mastery, of popularity, I guess, or of respect that doesn't matter. Well, that's not the greatest example, but I would say like Bruce Springsteen, right? People know he's going to rock that show for 3.5 hours, 4 hours, and he's going to give you the best possible show because he's reached that sort of level of mastery. And yeah, and I mean, if he can rock out for still the 3 hours plus after everything is accomplished, and it just shows you the level of respect we need to put into what we do. Yeah, just playing for 50 minutes isn't going to cut it anymore. Playing for an hour isn't going to cut it. Hour and a half isn't going to cut it. You got to be looking at playing at least 2 hours if you want to start bringing people to show. I mean, you're charging, thousands of dollars, and what exactly do you do? I mean, the shows, what I look at these days have become stationary, If you look at Michael Jackson, it's a full-blown production. I look at Guns N' Roses shows back in the day, guys running around this way. I remember AC/DC concerts, have the platforms and running around and doing this, interacting. Now it's just stationary, just stand in one place and a little bit up and down, and there you go. Yeah, I don't know. I think there needs to be a little more engagement and moving and incorporate some dance moves and stuff like that. And I don't know. I think that we just need to increase the level of what an artist can be. If we know, if I look at Michael Jackson and Prince and some of the the guys I admire, it's a declining slope. It isn't an increasing slope. It's not progressing up. It's progressing down. What's decrease, not progressing? It's decreasing down. Anyway, you get what I mean. We need to put a lot of effort into getting better. It's not just about your sales and then you can compare yourself to Michael Jackson. It's about, okay, taking what Michael Jackson did artistically and, okay, let's push ourselves to get better. And we can't just make an excuse like, oh, that was very talented, right? You had to put a lot of time into learning those dance moves. It just didn't come out of nowhere. So just like wake up tomorrow, moonwalk, right? Yeah. Okay. Hopefully I've shared some ideas with you, I guess, here. Some things I've been thinking about. Again, please take everything I say with a grain of salt. It's a bit of a brain dump, I guess, today. Yeah, for those of you who stuck with me for this whole episode, I greatly appreciate you for sticking with me and taking the time to listen to my thoughts about this week and all that. Overall, it's been a positive week, and I hope that it's reflected in the practice takes. It's been a great development this week, and I think this idea of what we mentioned is I am good enough has really been beneficial, and it's really helped me sort of break through that fourth wall and just relaxing more into the song and being at a point like, hey, Marco, you've practiced enough. Now you need to relax into the song. It's okay. You can let go, right? Yeah, I just know I'm gonna do whatever I can in my sort of time and give the absolute best I have in music, and hopefully when it's all said and done, I would have contributed something positively and moved things forward and created a higher standard of what an artist can be, what music can be. And I hope that it will create and inspire many more like that want to, achieve high mastery in what they do. And I get it, like the boats and women and parties and all this and traveling and look at me and it's it's cool, right? I mean, anyone would think it cool, particularly young kids and stuff like that. And I get it, like who wouldn't want to travel in a private plane and play to hundreds of thousands of people, and all that, and that's fantastic. But I wish the bar was higher. That's all. I just wish that the bar is, yeah. I wish that the level of skill is higher, but I think that it's greatly decreased. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry to end on a bit of a depressing note there, but I just thought that it's worth mentioning. Yeah. Anyway, on to week 9. Thank you so much for joining me for this introspection, and just some things to think about. I'm sure that your perspective will be different on things, but I just wanted to show you my sort of point of view on it. I know it's a murky and it's a bit of a controversial whatever area and stuff like that, but I just wanted to share some thoughts with you. yeah, it's just something I think about these days as I'm progressing forward and developing this. And yeah, makes me wonder. All right, thank you so much for joining me for this introspection, and please enjoy the practice takes for week 8. And we've spiced things up a little bit. You'll notice some changes. We're pushing ourselves forward into new areas. One thing final I say is that, if I just want to touch on something quickly, is that for a lot of things we sort of developed a structure, right? I can see sort of structure, but now I was just seeing where we can go with it and really challenging ourselves to push things forward and not be comfortable with the song, and just keep pushing ourselves and finding ways to get better at the song, and wanting to really shape the voice and stuff like that. I go into greater detail in the breakdowns. But I hope you can see the dedication and the love for that, and it's more than just music. And I hope what I share with you in the more sort of in the breakdowns and the practice takes for the songs is the the thought process behind what I'm trying to create with the song, and then the time it takes to really create the piece of music, and to get the vocalization, to really get it going well together. It's not just something that you can do in a few months. It takes years and years and years of time before you can really start comfortably performing and relaxing into the music and stuff like that. And there needs to be just a higher level, I guess, of respect, and I think that really comes from just in the hope, just understanding of what it is, that we are doing as musicians. I hope that through these practice days, stuff like that, I'm able to give you a bit of an insight into what exactly is happening behind the scenes. But drawing the curtain, I'm sharing with you, what it's really about. I hope that through that we can develop a little bit higher respect and understanding for artists and music creation, and what it takes to be an artist, what it takes to be regarded as a musician, as a performer, as an entertainer, as a mixer, as a DJ. I guess that's what I just as my motivation and wish for through these practice takes as we progress for Project Viminacium. All right, fantastic. Thanks you again. Thanks again for joining me. It's been a long day, all right? It's been a long 2 days, these practice takes and everything. Ooh, boy. Anyway, it is what it is. All right. Enjoy the practice takes. Now I'll catch you in a new week. All right. Much love to you all. Thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, all right. I'll see you soon. Okay? Bye-bye.